Hey Titans, this is Mordecai from GamerTitan.com, and in this video we're going to be going over how to make a progression leveling system with where we left off from the previous video. Now if you haven't done so already, go ahead and download Core by clicking the link in the description down below. And as always, the files for all the scripts that we'll be creating in this video are in the link in the description down below as well. So we're going to go ahead and fire up Core. Now I'm actually going to do this video a bit differently because I went ahead and filmed building out this entire thing, and that video was like 50 minutes long. So let me know what style you guys like better in the comments down below. So we're just going to be going over the changes I made to the scripts, and then from there, once we have the progression system set up, we will actually still code the title system. So let's go ahead and open up the save res file. And so in the previous video, we set up the XP, and so the only thing that was increasing was when a player joined, their XP would be 0, and then if they were to get a kill, I believe we had it at 10 right here, they would gain 10 XP, and then it was storing it on the database. So what we need to do to make a progression system is we need to add a few more things to our storage. So the first one that we added is level, and so we're checking on line 4 here, we're making a new variable called level. We're checking if in the player's storage, if level exists. If it doesn't, we're setting it to 1. We're making a new variable called required XP because we're going to need to check to make sure that the XP that they have is more than the required XP for they can actually gain a level. And the required XP, if it doesn't exist, we make it 120. On line 7, we actually do some math, and so what this equation is doing is it's taking their current level and it's adding 20% to it. So at level 1, the required XP will be 120. Level 2, it will be 20% from that. Level 3, 20% from that, etc. So the problem with these equations is it's the possibility that we could actually end up with a float value. And a float value is any number with a decimal point. So for example, if we were to do required XP and we ended up with, say, like 100.7, and we tried to store that because it's not an integer, then it would error out. And so on line 9, what we do is we take the variable after doing the equation. So we take required XP after doing the equation, and we use a function called core math, and we round it. And so it's going to, in the example of taking 100.7, it would round it up to 101 as the required XP. So then after that math, we're setting it in the player's storage, just as we did for XP, and then we added a new event listener on line 16. And so player.resource_change event, so anytime a resource changes, it's going to fire this event listener, and the event listener is going to fire this function. So we made a new function, and so if we scroll down, we have this new function called onResourceChange, and the resource change passes in the player, it passes in the resource name, and it passes in the resource value. And so we're putting in a task.wait. This could be per frame, it could be 1 second. You just need to make sure that you have a task.wait, or else this thing will error out because the resources are changing quite a bit. So I had to add this task.wait. And so what we're doing is when the resource changes, we're checking with this if statement if the resource name is XP, because that's all we care about right now. That's the only thing that will really be changing. So XP changes, then we check the storage again, the player's storage. And the reason we're doing this is because in case we have another function or somewhere else in our script down the line that is changing resources, and this function is unaware of that, we need to make sure that we get the freshest data set of the player. So we check their storage again. We set a new local variable for the function called XP, and it's passing, we're getting it from the event listener from the resource value, which was passed here. We're setting up a new variable, local variable called level, and we're once again checking the current player's resource level, and then we are doing the math for required XP again. So this needs to remain the same. And we need to do the core math again. So we're rounding it off so it's not a float, it becomes an integer. And then on line 60, we're checking, so first we checked 51 if the resource that changed was XP, did all this, Now we're checking if XP is greater than required XP, because this means is if their XP is more than what's required, then they leveled up. And so we're making a new variable that's local within this if statement, and it's XP, and we're taking XP and subtracting required XP. Now if we don't do this, then our XP will just continuously grow. It won't ever reset our XP based on the previous level. And so by doing this, we know that, say that we went from level 1 to level 2, means that we got 120 XP. But say we got 200 XP, if we don't remove the 120, instead of having 80 XP for the next level, it will remain at 200 XP and it will just keep leveling up. So we need to remove the required XP, and that's what this does. So now that we've removed our required XP from the XP that they have, which means they leveled up, we take their level and we add level plus 1, so this just simply adds plus 1 to the level. And then we need to do required XP again because their level has changed, and we do the same equation once more. Now some of this is redundant. As we go, we can clean up this code and make it more optimized. And so say that we wanted to make a change. Right now we'd have to change it in like 3 areas, I believe. So there's ways to do that where it's better. And so once again, more redundancy, we have to do core math. We got to round out the float value of the new XP, or required XP rather, and then we're setting the resource. So we're setting their XP, we're setting their required XP, and we're setting their level. Now once again, the on data save is only fired when they leave, but because we're using local resource, we'll be able to check the resource for actually displaying it on the UI. So if we go ahead and save right now, close the script, go in the projects folder, click on storage. It's empty right now, so we'll go ahead and open up a 2-player preview so I can demonstrate. Before we do that, actually, let's check. So when a player gets killed, they're going to get 200 XP. So bot 1 got 1 kill, they got 200 XP, and they should be level 2. So we'll close this, open up the storage folder again. And we can see that the required XP to get the next level is 144. Their actual XP that was left over is 80 because to get the level 2, they had to get 120 XP. And so because we removed the required XP from that, they're left over with 80 and they're level 2. So if we don't delete the storage and we play the game again, and we get 1 more kill, they should now be level 3. And as we can see in the event log, it printed that we are level 3. But just to show you that everything is working, their next required XP to hit level 4 is 173 XP. Their current leftover XP is 136, and they are level 3. So 1 more kill, they basically would get level 4, almost level 5. So that's all working. However, nowhere in our game are we doing anything with this XP yet. It's just functional. So we could add a title system as an example, and so to do that, we actually need to do some stuff on the client. And so, for example, let's see, let's do a preview one more time. So we have this table right here, this scoreboard, and then also you can see that there's a player name, it's bot 2. So it'd be pretty cool if we could add the title in front of that as well. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do that. And so we need to make some adjustments to the UI. Now I suggest saving your game at this point and backing up, because now we're actually adjusting the framework's scripts. And so we have the score UI, which is the scoreboard, and then we have the player UI, which has a thing called nameplates. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and right click on nameplates, and we're going to de-instance this object. And now we're going to go ahead and open the folder, go into client context, and we are going to adjust the actual nameplate controller. Now, I'm using a trick that Gabriel, Standard Combo, in the Discord showed me. So basically, we're going to go ahead and open up the script real quick. So we're going to be making a title system, and because there's multiple places within the UI, multiple files that we would have to call this over and over, one of the things we can do is create what's called a method, I believe. And to create a method, what we do is we first create a new file, and so I made it called playerTitleClient.lua, and we're going to make a new variable. I named it rank, all in caps, and we're going to make a new table. And so as far as I understand it, within this table we then have a function, and so it's like a normal function, but we have to append it to the table. And so we have rank.updateLevel, and we're going to pass in the player. And so we first get the resources of the player, and we get the title table. And so right now what we have is how tables work is we're creating the table, and we are naming the first item in the table is private, second is specialist, and third is corporal. Now Lua is one index, I think it's called, how you name it. And so what that means is to reference stuff within this table, we would do table 1. And so what this would do is this would get the first string, so it would be private. Sorry for the hovering. And then if we wanted to reference specialist, we would get 2. And so the idea here is that we have this table set up, and we are simply going to get the player's level and pass, instead of just putting in 1 here, we're going to put in level. And so if they're level 1, it's going to pull out of the title table that they are a private. And so that is what the basis of this functionality, or this function, is going to do. And so we're creating the table, and right now there's only 3 titles. You're welcome to add more. So like, for example, if we wanted to, after corporal, say for rank 4, we can add sergeant, right? So we'll do sergeant, and then we could add like lieutenant, captain, etc. And so right now this title table is only set up for 4 levels. If they get to level 5, it would be nil, and this would error out. And so to continue down here, what we're doing is we're making the table, we're getting level, so it's the player's level, and then we're making this if statement, and this if statement protects us from what I just said. It checks, it grabs the level, it checks the title based on what their level is, which is the same as indexing the table for that value. And so if it's not nil, it means that it's either one of these, and it will then make the title variable whatever the string is. And so if they're level 4 now, they would be a sergeant. And if that is not the case, if this is nil, which means they are likely past level 4, then their title will be general. And so the more titles that we add to our table here, the higher their rank will need to be before they hit general. So general is basically once they hit the level that you run out of titles for, then it just makes everyone general. Now how we have the script set up right now is they can still continue to level. If you wanted to make a capped out level system in our save Lua, you could just make it check if level equals like 10, then level just stays the same as opposed to leveling up. For now, people can continue to level, and for now they'll just be general. And so then in this function, we want to return title, and this allows us to get title back to where we need to use it. And I'll show you how we're using this in a moment. And then we also, because it's a method, need to return rank. And so it's returning the entire table as far as I understand it, and then within that we can get the title value. And by doing a method, it allows us to use this functionality in multiple files as long as we actually let whatever file we're using it in give it a reference to this file. And so where we're referencing it is the nameplate controller. So if I scroll up here, you can see that on line 48 I have local rank equals require, and this is requiring the script. So that, as far as I understand it, the best way to think about it is by using require, we are simply copying and pasting is the best way I could explain it, this function into this controller without actually having to code it in there. This allows us to access that function within wherever we reference the script. And so let me show you real quick how we're referencing it. So we're going to nameplate controller, and we don't have player title client in our hierarchy. What we're doing is we're going into my scripts in project contents and player title client. So we're going to nameplate controller and we're just dragging it in here. And then we get the reference for it, which is the script custom property player title client. So you can copy that from here. The only thing I suggest is renaming it, the variable, to rank or whatever you want to name it. Just remember what it's called, and then you got to add this require. You got to wrap it in this require. So now we need to find in the nameplate code where it's actually making the player's name. And so it's on line 127, and so by default it looks like this. It's just simply their player's name. And so what we're doing is we're using this method. So we're calling that function we created by doing rank dot update level, and we're passing the player. And as we remember, this function's passing back title. So the best way to think about this is it knows who the player is. In that other function, we're checking what their level is. Based on that level, we're indexing the title table, and it's passing back whatever their level's appropriate rank is, their title, and then it's passing that back to us. And so it gives, this is basically, the best way to look at this is this, when it runs, say that they're level 1, it would, if I can spell, it would look like that. So that is an extremely helpful thing. And once again, Gabriel helped me figure that out from the Discord. So right now, this is only on player joined. And so that means that if someone joins, a player joins our game and they're level 2, then their title will be specialist. But we don't currently update their rank in game because we're not doing any sort of check once they've actually joined the game. It won't actually update their title. And so we actually need to code that as well. And so let's see, on player joined in this function, down at the bottom here, we can set up an event listener, and we're going to do player dot resource changed event. We're going to connect it, and then we're going to make a new function on player resource change, and then we're going to make a new function called on player resource change. And once again, we could pass in the player, we could pass in the res name and the res value. So we're going to do if res name equals level, then, oops, why am I doing that? Then we need to update the player's name. So let's copy that line, and we're going to do nameplates player dot name text, and then we're going to refire this method again, and it should update the player's name. We're going to end it out, and we need to end out the function. And so believe that should be right. Res name. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our project. We're going to go to storage. We're going to delete the storage. It should start at level 1. Press play here. So private bot 2, and then private bot 1. So I'm private bot 1. And I got the timer too low. Oh, that's the lobby. Okay, so I'm trying to set this up so you guys can see it. So when I get a kill, I should level up, and now I'm specialist bot 1. And I'll get 2 more kills, I believe, and I should be, I'm a corporal. Get another kill, and now I'm a general because I skipped sergeant because of how my XP was. I had enough XP stored up at level 3 to just go ahead and skip sergeant. So now, regardless of how many kills I get or how much level I get, I will remain a general. So everything is working. Now this video is still extremely long. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Once again, all of the files that I've changed, I will package into a folder for you guys, zip it up, and it's in the link in the description down below. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button. If you want more correlated content, hit that subscribe button. And once again, seriously, if you have any questions or comments, any feedback on my videos, please leave them in the comments down below. And catch you next time, Titans.
Titan.